people directly and to areas that are in the news, and of course Boracay is in the news. No? Now let me begin first with the regular press briefing before we hand over the floor to the USEX and ASEX from the interagency of Boracay. I believe all of you already have my statement on the NFA Council meeting yesterday. I'd like to reiterate that the NFA Council was not abolished. Although with the President presiding the NFA Council meeting, an importation of 250,000 metric tons was authorized. This will be G2G, but henceforth future importations will be undertaken by the private sector, the so-called G2P, and it will be through auction. Gone are the days of quotas, no? To do away with corruption. The importations henceforth will be handled by the Execom, and this will include representatives from the NFA, from the Department of Agriculture, from the Department of Finance, as well as the Office of the President. Now, in yesterday's meeting, the representative of DBP, former Senator Alberto Romulo, said that DBP would like to leave the council because they feel they are a bit redundant since Land Bank is already in the council. No? And the other members of the council agreed. In lieu of DBP, we will have DSWD, Department of Social Work and Development, to sit in the council, no, in lieu of DBP. Now, it was also agreed that 3 agencies will be returned as line agencies to the Department of Agriculture. This will include the NFA. This will also include the Philippine Coconut Authority, as well as the Fertilizer and Pesticides Authority. Now, the discussion on the FPA was actually, started with the President saying that he does not want to be saddled with too many agencies under the office of the President. After which, Secretary of Finance, himself a former NFA administrator and former Department of Agriculture Secretary, agreed and recalled that it was through his initiative that many of the offices now under the office of the President were brought back to the Department of Agriculture. And Secretary Dominguez said that in fact these other agencies were only brought to the office of the President at the time when Senator Kiko Pangilinan was then appointed as presidential advisor and made to supervise agencies which originally were under the DA but were brought under the aegis of the office of then presidential advisor, Presidential Kiko Pangilinan. Now, because the NFA is now under the Department of Agriculture anew, Secretary CABSEC, the Cabinet Secretary, Leoncio B. Evasco, will no longer be part of the NFA Council. He asked me, in fact, to read a statement for and in his behalf, and I will indulge him. Magandang hapon sa inyong tanan. I would like to thank the President for designating me and giving me the opportunity to chair the NFA Council, as well as other members of the NFA Council for the 1.5-year governance work in the National Food Authority. I have full respect with the decision of the President, given the encompassing nature and impact of the National Food Authority on the Filipino people and the farmers. We have put in place several policy guidelines that have provided a more transparent, competitive, inclusive, and accountable system of procurement and distribution of NFA rice as a result of more than 20 council meetings since my designation as President as NFA Council Chair. The importation of close to 805,200 metric tons of minimum access volume rice without a cent spent by government is also an attempt by the Council and this administration not to add to the liabilities it has incurred since its creation through Presidential Decree number 1770. Finally, we have been able also to make sure that decisions of the Council are collegial in nature and bring together the critical and evidence-based reports and inputs coming from NEDA, BSP, DTI, and even our banking institutions in the board, namely the Land Bank of the Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines, while building on the reports provided to us by the NFA management. In my more than 20 years in government public service, including 3 terms as mayor of the municipality of Maribojoc and Bohol, I have never been charged with malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance in the conduct of my work more than 20 years of government public service. I have never been investigated by any office or on any misdealings, let alone I have never been charged at Ombudsman Sandigan Bayan for any corrupt practices. I can never break the trust given to me by our President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, especially when he appointed me to the position I am now in, a position I did not ask for but wholeheartedly accepted in order to help the President govern our country to make government responsive to the needs of our people. I can never break the good relations I have with the President, a relation we have built through the years with the people we work and serve with. I can never put my family in a position of compromise after all the support, sacrifice, and love they have given to me as I continue to serve the government and the people. It has been a challenge to be part of this reform agenda in NFA and in the government at large, especially with the effort of some quarters to discredit my name and that of the council. But making sure that these reforms were implemented during my watch are worth the effort and that of the council members. All these have given me lessons, learnings, and insights I will treasure and nurture as we continue to move toward better, cleaner, and effective government service for the people. With the President's decision to transfer the governance to the next Council Chair, I believe the NFA can now move forward towards ensuring that corrupt, exclusive, and debt-ridden practices during the past administrations will not rein in the next transactions to pass. I call the new chairperson to take advantage of what we have started and continue the system's transformation so it can take root in NFA. At this critical juncture, today is the best time for NFA to move forward towards being a true partner of the farmer in delivering better quality services, a true partner of the Filipino poor consumers in providing affordable and quality rice to the public, and a true partner of the nation in ensuring food security for rice, especially during the periods of calamities and disasters. To end, we call on the people to continue their support for a better NFA and national government in line with the agenda of our President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Salamat po. Final matter on NFA, it was also discussed that the smuggled rice apprehended in Zamboanga, Sibugay will be donated to NFA to be sold as part of the NFA inventory for subsidized rice. Now, the G2G importation, which was authorized by the Council, the authorization was as of yesterday, and the delivery will take about a month. And of course, this importation will be sold at 27 pesos a kilo. Now, I also confirmed that the Russian ambassador made a call on the President yesterday. The President met with His Excellency Igor Kovaev, I don't know how to pronounce, sorry, Kovaev of Russia in Malacanang. The Russian ambassador handed to President Duterte a personal letter from President Putin. During both officials' meeting, the Philippines and Russia reaffirmed their mutual support for each other. Putin will do the right thing in the present situation in Syria. The President likewise expressed hope that the situation in Syria will not escalate any further and they will be returned to peace, as there are around 1,000 Filipinos in Syria. The President and the Russian ambassador also discussed the drug war in the Philippines and the International Criminal Court. Now, would any one of the members of the interagency care to summarize so far what has been discussed in the interagency meeting with the stakeholders? This was originally scheduled on the 10th. Fortunately, it was postponed because I couldn't join you on the 10th, and I was able to join you now. So who will summarize so far the proceedings? Yes, Yusek.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Harry Roque. Basically, today the workshop conference was planned to allow stakeholders in Boracay, tourism stakeholders, hotel, resort owners, the LGU, and everybody that is here in Boracay, including the people that reside in Boracay, to understand the big plan for the rehabilitation of Boracay Island. Why it was done today? Because, as you know, sir, yesterday there was a meeting headed by the Presidential Management Staff, where they consolidated all the work plan of all the agencies, including DPWH, DILG, DNR, TIESA, DOT, and this is now contained in a report that will also be presented to the President this Friday, and attendance will be the Cabinet Secretaries. That had to be done yesterday for us to come here today to present. This morning was a chance for the major agencies involved in the rehabilitation to present to the invited stakeholders, which numbers about 150. And this afternoon is a chance for the stakeholders to air also naman their proposals, their comments on the rehabilitation plan. So far, we've got feedback that the TIESA presentation of the workload for the drainage and sewage lines, which is one of the biggest problems confronting the island of Boracay, has been explained, and what kind of work has to be done. Yesterday, we'd like to report that it was approved that the DPWH will now be the lead agency in the civil works that will be done on the main road. Effective April 26, the DPWH will start work on the road widening all the way from the jetty port, and that's about 3 to 4 kilometers. And they have offered to take over the TIESA pipeline projects, which is good because now there's a single agency that's taking the lead for that. While TIESA, the other day, has started work on the discharge water drain line to Bulabog. And this is something that has been long overdue, and this is now going to happen in the next 30 days. May we remind everybody that prior to April 26, as early as February, the Interagency Task Force has actually started working together with DNR, DILG, and TIESA DOT to make sure that we be able to work faster before the deadline now of 6 months. Remember, the order is for a maximum of 6 months, and Secretary Teo has expressed confidence that we can do this faster than the prescribed time of maximum of 6 months. Asik Epi?
Any additions from the Assistant Secretary?
We can already make disclosures. I think many of you already have a copy of the 8 general guidelines for purposes of the security plan of the island. And many had been asking, we've been telling the public that we can actually have a soft opening in 3 to 4 months. So this is not official because we've not elevated this to the level of the secretaries yet for discussion and approval. But maybe it's okay to disclose so that everybody would know the milestones that we have to meet to be able to open the island ahead of the 6-month period. Number one critical here is we are proposing that for 30 consecutive days in the month of July, there should be the water discharge should be within DNR standards. So 30 consecutive days, that's number one. Number two, with regard to the solid waste, the sanitary landfill should be zero garbage by the end of July. Number three, which is already ongoing right now, we have to finish the Bulabog drainage system, which is under rehabilitation right now. It's ongoing. From what we know, since it started early April, they'll be able to finish the rehabilitation of the Bulabog drainage by the end of the month or early May. So that's the third criteria. The fourth criteria is we have to dismantle by the end of July or early August all violators of the 25+5 meter easement rule. So 100% compliance of all establishments, both in the front or White Beach and the Bulabog Beach. They should comply with the 25+5 easement rule. That's the fourth. The fifth is we have to recover at least 3 of the 5 wetlands which have been reclaimed and put up illegal structures. So we've identified 5 wetlands or formerly wetlands which have been put up structures as of today. Our proposal is to recover at least 3 by the end of July or early August. And the last one is with regard to the road system, the main road as mentioned a while ago by Spox Roque, we have to hit the 70% completion rate. If we hit the 70% completion rate of the road widening project to 12 meters, including that of the new drainage pipeline, then that can be a signal that we can have a soft opening by most probably by August at the earliest.
Now, any news on what awaits the public come soft opening in August? What are the plans of DOT?
Okay, first and foremost, before we can even consider a hotel open for soft opening, they should undergo DOT accreditation first. That's very, very important. Aside from that, of course, we'll be also inviting maybe a minimum number of tourists to come to the island. And by April 21, DENR will already announce the carrying capacity of the island. From then, we could observe on how we should go about with a soft opening.
Thank you. So, I'd like to open the floor now for questions. Since this is an out-of-town Malacanang press briefing, we'll give priority first to the members of the Malacanang Press Corps who are here. Then we will give opportunity for the local media to ask questions. Then alternating will be questions from Malacanang Press Corps sent by text or by any means. Okay? So anyone from the Malacanang Press Corps now here? Oh, only Joseph Morong is here. Yes, Joseph. Okay, so please. And moderator, ganun lang yung order. No? Okay, go.
Shaila Francisco from TV5. I'd just like to ask, kasi kanina po nung consultation, marami pong nagtataka at nagko-question kung ano yung trabahong naghihintay para sa mga maapektuhang empleyado. Kasi kanina, nung nag-present pong DOLE, ang sinabi po nila ay nagpo-profiling pa lang daw ang mga, pinoprofile pa lang nila yung mga workers at baka may pa raw dumating yung mga trabaho. So, may we get an answer straight from the interagency?
Yesterday, Asik Epi can also add to this. The representative from DOLE was at the meeting in Malacanang. And that's right, they are profiling because we want to make sure about the numbers that are being mentioned. As you know, the 19,000 directly employed is supplied by the local government, the provincial and local government. And then there's about 17,000 that are indirect or informal workers. What they're concentrated on now, as far as DOLE is concerned, is the direct workers of the hotel, resorts, and those involved in Boracay. What was already mentioned was the Tupad program, which is for initially 5,000 workers. And the amount that has been mentioned already, in fact, Secretary Hari was the one who mentioned, it's 2.3 billion pesos. I think what DOLE just wants to make sure is they're able to vet the list properly. Now, why are they careful? Because not everybody that is working the hotel is a regular worker. Some are contractual or some depending on the high season and low season. They also want to make sure that these workers are duly accredited with us at the DOT, because we cannot have a situation wherein suddenly there are workers that will appear that have not been in the island. So the vetting is important, and the DOLE wants to make sure that they're able to do that properly. But the commitment is there to provide work. In fact, the plan in yesterday's meeting was the work that has to be done by DPWH, CIEZA, DNR, and DILG. We can already tap into the workforce that is in the island. But some of them cannot do the work that is necessary. So they're going to have to find other work that will still be covered by DOLE. In regards to the informal workers, this is where DSWD comes in. Secretary Leco did mention yesterday that they have already also started profiling, and these are basically those who provide therapy in the beach, those who sell souvenirs in the beach, and they're also profiling. The commitment yesterday was that before the 26th, both agencies would be able to submit an initial list that will be the basis of the Tupad program and the livelihood program from DSWD. Asik Epi?
Well, first, let's be firm with the numbers. There's a conflict with the numbers. The people from Boracay Foundation said 36,000 are the people to be affected. What we're saying, it's less than 36,000, and we've only found out that based on Philippine Statistics Authority statistics, no, the number of residents in the island in Boracay in the three barangays is around 32,500 or 32,500 more or less, no. So if we take a look at the 17,000 formally employed by the hotels and resorts, we're estimating around 20 to 30% of that might be leaving the island because they're really not from here. In fact, coming in and out of the island, we found out that some are from Luzon, from Rizal, from Antipolo. So there's a great chance that they'll be leaving temporarily the island. No? Second, on the informal sector side, we're estimating around 10 to 12,000. So looking at a figure of 20,000, we're looking at a figure of 20,000 for the government to come in to assist. Now the next question is, does the government have the funding to assist? I can really say yes. In fact, the budget set aside from the Calamity Fund for purposes of doing this bridge assistance is more than enough. Just for purposes of hypothetical computation, assuming it's 20,000 people that we will be assisting, assuming it's 323 pesos or 325 pesos per day as minimum wage in the region, times 20,000, and assuming we're going to go to the full full route of 6 months, no, we're talking about 1 billion of the 2 billion to cover for the bridge assistance for the people who will be out of work and for those who will be losing earnings because they're coming from the informal sector. So government has enough money to be able to do the bridge assistance. Now, for those who are small entrepreneurs, we're now asking DTI to provide us with their small business loan program, and if the island will be declared under a state of calamity, which as of yesterday is already in the office of the Executive Secretary, then they can even lend money at zero interest amongst those who will be given financial assistance or financial loan for purposes of the small entrepreneurs. So they can restructure their loans with the local loan sharks. Okay, but with regard to those who have formal loans with the financial institutions, they will have to restructure. So one, we're talking about we're trying to firm up the numbers. Number two, government has enough funding to do the bridge if ever we go the full 6-month route. And thirdly, most importantly, is everybody gets to benefit. Especially, gusto kong sanang i-address ito sa ating mga katutubo dito sa dito sa Boracay, kasi a few weeks ago, we got a word on the ground that there are certain businessmen moving around the island. Medyo tinatakot sila, sasarado na yung Boracay, mawawala na kayong trabaho, wala na kayong kikitain, wala na kayong kakainin. And I saw in one feature in one of the news channels na umuyak yung katutubo dahil wala na raw silang kakainin. Para sa ating kaalaman, sa ating mga katutubo dito po sa Malay, ang order of assistance po natin, unang-una sa lahat po ng mga katutubo or indigenous people nandito, mabibigyan kayo lahat ng assistance, bridge assistance ng gobyerno. Pangalawa, yung mawawala ng trabaho, whether nandito kayo or aalis kayo ng isla, bibigyan ho namin kayo ng assistance. Pangatlo, kaya dito ang pumapasok yung profiling, kailangan ho natin bigyan din assistance yung mawawala ng kita mula sa informal na sektor. So we're covering everything, and from the last meeting yesterday, we are now in the process of identifying which type of work we have to give these people. I remember, hindi naman natin ito ibibigay lang we have to give them some work. And sinabihan na namin si DPWH kahapon, lahat ng manpower requirement nila sa pag-expand ng road dun sa 4.8 kilometer main road system, lahat po ng taga-isla na mawawala ng trabaho, yun po ang i-hire. Wala hong i-hire na taga-labas po ng Boracay Island. So we're already ready for those eventualities.
Yes. I think I'm on. Yes. I'm Jonathan Head from the BBC. I have a question for Secretary Harry Roque, if that's okay. Can you explain why President Duterte insisted on such a sudden closure of Boracay, giving the locals very little time to prepare, rather than the original proposal for a 6-month preparation period?
It was the only way to do it. It's a It's a drastic police measure intended to protect the environment. We wanted to see if we could delay it any further, but apparently the water quality in Boracay necessitated that the closure be done sooner than later. So this was a critical intervention intended to preserve Boracay not just for this generation, but for the incoming generations.
It was a very sudden decision. Was it the President's decision alone?
No, it was not a sudden decision. It was first brought up in a cabinet meeting, I believe, in, if I'm not mistaken, February, and they were given a period of 6 months, to come up with recommendations. And in 2 months' time, I believe, there was a recommendation given by the 3 cabinet members for a 6-month closure.
Don't you think it's a bit harsh on the local people? They've had so little time to prepare for this.
The President said, I will spend public money for the welfare of the local people, but he will not subsidize the rich resort owners. Because he says they have a responsibility also for the current state of Boracay. I would like to state that the law states that all resorts should have their own wastewater facility. You can count with your hands the number of resorts which have these wastewater facilities.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, before we proceed to that lady, sir, Dexter has a question for you.
Microphone.
A statement on the police
Mike,
award.
please. Mike, please.
Sir,
Dexter would like to get a statement from you regarding the Pulitzer Award, sa story ng Manuel Mogato ng Reuters War on Drugs, and the detention of Australian missionary in the Philippines, Sister Patricia Fox.
Definitely, I'd have to congratulate Manuel Mogato, but the fact remains that the policy of the President on the drug war is that the drug war is legitimate. It's intended to protect the youth from the ill effects of drugs. Number 2, the killings committed by state authorities are, for as long as they are legal, will be defended by the state. But as in the case of Kian de los Santos, if the killings are contrary to law and unjustified, he will cause the criminal prosecution of the policemen themselves. So that's the state of the drug war.
So your statements are on the missionary.
The missionary, well, in all countries of the world, foreigners are admitted subject to compliance with minimal conditions. And one condition that we impose on all foreigners is that they desist from participating in any form of political activities. Apparently, BI has information, that the Bureau of Immigration has information, the Commission on Immigration and Deportation, CID, has information that Sister Patricia Fox has been involved in political activities, and that's why her temporary permit to stay in the country is now being considered to be revoked. But there is a process to be complied with. Now, this is not an arrest. This is an order, an investigation whether or not to deport Sister Patricia Fox. And we have decided cases already by the Supreme Court that these arrests are not governed by normal rights of an accused in a criminal proceedings, because this is for purpose and preparatory to deportation.
Thank you, sir. The lady.
Good afternoon. I'm Joyce Ilaspo from CNN Philippines. Asek Dinsing, you mentioned earlier about the Bridge Assistance Program. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong, that refers to the Cash for Hire program, wherein workers would be asked to participate, to work in the cleanup, in the rehabilitation of the islands. That's right, sir. Sir, why? Yes, and why only give it to 20,000, sir, and not to the 36,000 workers again?
As I've said, the 36,000 mentioned by the Boracay Foundation is a questionable number. I think it's in the high side. When your population here per Philippine Statistics Authority is only 32,000, how can you have 36,000 workers, both formal and informal? So looking at it in a statistical perspective, assuming a 17,000 and 12 to 15,000 informal sector, we're looking at a middle ground of 20,000. And even if we grow it to 30,000, just for purposes of assumption, it will cost only 1.5 billion of the 2.3 billion set aside from the calamity fund. Now, what you may want to ask, what happens to the budget for the infrastructure projects or the rehabilitation process? Each department has their own budget already. In fact, the DPWH has mentioned they have the budget that will be taken from the department for the development or the widening of the 4.8-kilometer main road. For the TIEZA, for the rehabilitation of the drainage system, they also have that 1.1 billion budget for the rehabilitation. So in the infrastructure side, the agencies can already take it from them. So the 2.3 billion calamity fund, which will be to bridge, to bridge assist the locals for them to have some money during the rehab period, is again more than enough to cover.
Sir, this is cash for hire. This is not a dole-out program.
Yes, definitely.
And sir, what about the skilled workers? Won't there be a job mismatch? Because we have graduates, college graduates. What do we have for them? Because we cannot expect them to join in the cleanup.
That's why, as of yesterday, we are now determining the type of work that we will need during the rehabilitation process. I think the DOT also has a project that even during the rehab process, there will be a training program for these college graduates, especially the frontliners. So DOT has that program, so they may undertake that program. It's like a on-the-job training program for them to improve their frontline services. All the rest we will offer construction, maybe clean up in the shoreline. So these are the various works we're now identifying as of yesterday.
Training with salary, or just training?
Training.
Okay. So will they be given or offered work with salary also for the skilled workers?
Yeah, I think so. That should be something. I was saying it's like an on-the-job training. So they will be paid while training to improve their frontlining services.
An international hotel chain just informed me as I came here that they'll be sending majority of their workforce to their other branches abroad for further training. So they're taking advantage of the break to further train their employees.
Thank you. Before we take Joseph's question, let's go to this other side first.
Hi, Asik Densing. Sir, yung dun sa 6-month period po natin, can you give us a list of what the government intends to accomplish during that period? And what if we encounter po delays? Ano po yung gagawin natin kung hindi natin siya ma-meet within that 6-month period?
Well, the target really is to finish the 6 months. No, we've talked to the different agencies vis-a-vis the time frame, and they are in agreement with it. So for instance, for the drainage system, the target is to start April. We already started, and to finish it by November. For the phase 1, which is the rehabilitation of the Bulabog drainage, I think they're already about to finish it by early May. No, so phase 2 will be something that they will have to finish by October. The other one is the road expansion program. So with the road expansion program, DPWH has already given us the signal that they can finish it in 6 months. No? Assuming there will be no resistance within the island. In other words, people will try to resist. Because right now, as of yesterday, there's a certain area here in the Bulabog beach where the owner of the property refuses to give in to the extra 3 meters on the left side. So we have to talk to that specific owner to give in. Otherwise, it will delay the whole rehabilitation or road widening project.
So sir, na-take into consideration yung possible storm season because this could delay yung mga projects po natin?
Yeah, it was already considered. On the infrastructure side, it was already considered by the DPWH. So assuming there will be no storm, we can do the road widening with less than 6 months.
Sir, last question na lang po on my part. Have we identified na po ba yung mga establishments na i-demolish natin? Like yung demol, ano na po ba yung status nito, sir?
Okay, right now, we're going to get officially the list from DNR. Unfortunately, DNR is not here. No? But once we get the list, we will now tell the LGU to help us in making sure that all establishments are within the 25+5 easement rule. That should be part of the deliverables within the 6 months.
But there's, for sure po yun na may madedemolish talaga.
Yes sir, definitely.
If Ted Filon is watching, on my way here, I personally saw that West Cove is being demolished. Okay, it's not just closed, it's actually being demolished. Not just the structure on the rock, but the main property itself.
Yeah, in fairness, I've spoken to some owners who are in violation of the 25+5 earlier this morning, and they promised that they will self-demolish. Unfortunately, they're waiting. They're trying to maximize the time today until the 25th to accommodate more guests. But definitely, some of them have already committed to me that once April 26 comes in, they will start to self-demolish, because if government does the demolishing, then it will not be aesthetically acceptable to them.
Thank you. We'll return to you, ma'am, after Joseph. Yes.
Sir, I think last week, you mentioned something like 5,000 job orders. So technically, the first maybe 2 weeks, how many job orders do you have for the workers?
The 5,000 came from Dole, but we're going to make that call for them to hire them immediately. In fact, just to disclose, we're already identifying the types of work that the 5,000 people will do on day one, on April 26. That's why hopefully by next week we return and we identify who these 5,000 people are, so that we can already hire them immediately starting on April 26.
Working on your statistics na 20,000, you will only be able to absorb 5,000, yes?
Just the initial.
So what will happen with the 15,000?
After the profiling has been done, after we've identified what type of work will be given to them, then we start hiring them and give them the job orders or the minimum wage for this cash or emergency job program.
The 15,000, the earliest time they can have a job?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Nanganga. Ganon.
Hindi naman. But
Sir,
of course, the objective is to do this as fast as possible.
All right. Sir, on the ground, can you explain this to me? Mukhang yung mga mawawalan ng work, they will not be staying here. Mukhang lahat aalis.
Ang estimate namin, hindi lahat. We're estimating 20 to 30%. Especially those who are really not from here. Mga transient talaga sila rito. Hindi talaga Boracay, not even from Aklan. Mga taga Luzon pa.
Okay, Secretary Roque, you mentioned that the 2.3 billion is calamity fund, no? But we don't have any proclamations yet. Any news of when?
It's forthcoming. I was with Executive Secretary Medaldea yesterday, and apparently it's in the works.
So yung, enlighten me lang, yung pong pagpasok ng national to do the work of basically the local government, you mentioned police power. That's the nature of the dynamics between the national and the local government.
Yes. Well, you see, the local government could also have declared the state of calamity. It would have been simpler. There's a process that we have to comply now. There's a National Disaster Risk Management Office, no, which recommends actually to the President a declaration. No? So the process has been concluded, and that's why there is now a draft of the declaration of a state of calamity here in Boracay to be issued by the President upon recommendation of the Office of Disaster Preparedness, no?
So the legal basis will be the proclamation within the week naman. Syempre kasi next week na yun.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sir, just on the note, maybe the DALG and you, with the guidelines, the 85 guidelines for the media, unfairly or justly, it creates maybe a negative perception that may tinatago. Why 85? And is that subject to appeal?
No, nakalagay lang doon is a general rule 8 to 5. But we're now passing the buck to the DOT because we told them, bahala na kayo sa media. But that 8 to 5 is a general rule. So in other words, there can be exceptions to that general rule.
Yeah, can I just add something to that? If there is a reason for the media to stay in the island, if they have any activities that we need to show to the public, of course the media can stay in the island, pero not naman more than like 9 p.m. or anything beyond that. Because if you remember, if you remember, all the hotels will be closed. That's for one. Yes.
Some said they will be open.
They will try to stay open. Let's clarify that. There have been reports that hotels have announced that they will stay open. Secretary Anyo has said that they will not be allowed. They can announce, but they will not be allowed. In fact, Secretary Anyo in our last interagency task force meeting said we will give them a visit to explain why, because the rule is they're not supposed to operate during the time of closure. Now, quickly, we have been asked, how about those who have bookings beyond 26 April? The Secretary of Tourism has stated that for those who arrive on the 24th, on the 25th, they can stay up to the prescribed period of their booking, but not beyond that. And we're looking at no extension beyond their original booking. If that means that they have to stay from the 26th to the 28th, the responsibility will be coming from the hotel operator to tell us that they have indeed people that have booked all the way to the 28th so that they can be allowed to finish their booking. But new bookings beyond 25th, meaning April 26th, will no longer be allowed. Now, quickly on the media guidelines. When we first announced this last Saturday, we said the guidelines is proposed. We're asking media to not get ahead of us on this. We now have a clearer picture of how we can deal and give guidelines to media. We need first to accredit them, and the DOT has started accepting the accreditation process yesterday. We hope to accredit everybody by this week so that we can issue the IDs by next week. In terms of the general guidelines of 8 to 5 working media time, it is a general guideline, but we will allow them upon request for special occasions. Earlier, the Interagency Task Force Communications Group is making a recommendation, again subject to the final guidelines, that for the first few days, from 26 to 28, possibly even up to the 30th, we can allow media to cover beyond 5 p.m., but we will have to request them not to stay overnight. They will have to still go back to Katiklan and come back the following day. Now, why are we doing this? The DILG has mentioned that, of course, during this time, we also want to make sure that the people covering are doing it escorted by us as well. We will have a media office, a designated media office at the jetty port, where people can set up for their live coverage. And if they wish to go around beyond the time of April 30, then they will have to coordinate with us and specifically tell us where they want to go, and we can also show them the workload that's being done on a regular basis, but not necessarily every day. The purpose, the reason behind that is that we want the work to be done unhampered. We don't also want to put you in harm's way, and we want to make sure that the media is able to cover it properly as well. We understand that there's not going to be too much events anyway at the island during the time of closure, so we trust that the media will understand that proper coordination following a guideline will be followed.
Wait, let me just read this. It's just handed to me. Apparently, the question on Sister Patricia Fox, the Australian missionary, she has been released. Wait, released from its custody today, Sister Patricia Fox. So to the person who asked, she's been released.
Thank you, sir. The lady first, then Nestor.
Secretary Roque, Stella Arnaldo from Business Mirror. The Secretary of Labor has warned the establishments here in Boracay that, not to let go of their workers, okay? But of course, the resort owners, the business owners are saying, but we'll be closed for 6 months. What will we do with them? How are we going to give them any salaries if we're not operating? Isn't there some sort of a disconnect there, sir?
No, I think the rule on no work, no pay should still apply, but security of tenure should not be affected. So as soon as the island reopens, they should be accepted, yes. So, okay. Now, you know, obviously the no work, no pay is not the fault of the employer. It's a state action. So the workers can't complain, no? But that's why government has undertaken to provide alternative employment for the displaced workers. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Nes.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir Nestor Burgos from the Inquirer. Follow up on
yes,
yes, sir. Okay, sir. On the media guidelines, sir. You cited several reasons for the what some of us see as a very strict and unnecessary guidelines. One, that you want the work to be unhampered. Second, you are concerned with the safety of journalists. Third, there are no events in Boracay after 5 p.m. Sir, the burden on limiting the right of media and free expression is on the government. It's not the other way around, that we should prove that there is a need to cover the events. It's the other way around. There should be unrestricted access to the media. Second, in terms of unhampered access, unhampered work, those covering here are very much experienced in covering even wars, police operations, calamities. Aklan Media are veteran of covering Yolanda. They know not to interfere in government activities. They are very much familiar with that. Second, they are also very concerned about their safety because we cannot report if we are dead. Third, there are many events after 5 p.m. The news cycle now is 24/7. We don't want to be caught in Katiklan after 5 while something is happening in Boracay. This is a closure of the island. 2 billion is being spent for rehabilitation. There is news in the next 6 months after 5 p.m. That's why we're appealing to the government to remove all restrictions, especially escorts. We don't need escorts. Escorts will hamper our work because our sources might be intimidated if we have police tagging around journalists.
Noted on your recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Sir, question. On the Dole, you have mentioned that Dole and DSWD are still profiling and they're coming up with the list April 26, before April 26 or on. Isn't that too late? That's what the reactions of the people there. You're still profiling, and what are they going to do starting April 26? They have no work. And what if they're not included in the list? And when will the compensation package be released? It will take time. You know how government works. So isn't this too abrupt and too rush? And the people we've interviewed earlier said they feel that only the security preparations are comprehensive and ready. And they do not see that, especially the compensation package on workers are not ready. That's how they feel.
But first, of the compensation, again, we're placing the island under a state of calamity. And this is the reason why we're temporarily not letting in the main source of the calamity, which is the human factor, because this is a human-induced hazard. So that's why we're trying to do that, what we call a bridge. We cannot match, what they are getting right now as compensation with the bridge. So that's the very concept of the bridge assistance, for us to be able to cover while the island is under a state of calamity and is under rehabilitation. While I do agree, that the profiling is a bit late or a bit slow. I'm not saying it's late, but it's a bit slow. But we're trying to fast track the profiling right now. What is important to us right now is once these people are already identified, immediate work can be given. We're not even sure that they will be given up by the employers at that time. Primarily because we're also appealing to the employers. They've already made much money for the first 4 months of this year. In fact, in business perspective, the amount of profit that they've made from January until I estimate on April 25 is more than enough to cover whatever potential losses or salary that they will be giving their employees in case that island will be closed for the next 6 months. So it is now an issue of corporate responsibility on the part of the big resort owners who have made millions and billions in the island. And it's very unfair. It's very unfair for them to abruptly stop their operation, keep their profits for the first 4 months, and just let go of their employees. That's why what I'm always saying is this situation needs the cooperation of everybody. And I was mentioning this road, this property owned by one person or one family who refuses to give in. Because if this person refuses to give in to that extra 3 meter in the widening program of the government, it will delay the road widening project by at least not even 6 months. It can go beyond 6 months once we take this to court, but it will delay the whole process. That's why our appeal to everybody in the island is really to please cooperate. Let us not resist. It is not to the interest of anybody, from the government to the workers to the businessmen, to continue the island to be closed for 6 months. That's why we're trying to fast track everything, because it is not to the interest of everybody to make this island remain closed for 6 months. If you can open this earlier, so much the better. And we're really appealing to everybody to help us. Let's work hand in hand. If we do this, whatever limitations government has can be covered by those from the private sector. And if they cover this, whatever we're doing right now, specifically the 6 areas where the milestones can be used as a gauge of reopening the island earlier than 6 months, then so much the better. We can do this.
Thank you. Our lady from PTV.
Sir, you mentioned before na meron kayong soft opening on the 4th month, on the 3rd or the 4th month. Hopefully. So, ano po yung parang standards nyo para matuloy itong soft opening na to? Ano yung mga ina-expect namin to have been done by that time para matuloy yung soft opening na to?
Well, one is, on July, we will be proposing to the DNR that we should be getting 30 consecutive days that all this discharge of water should be within the DNR standards. Number 2, vis-a-vis the sanitary landfill, there should be 0 solid waste or 0 garbage in the sanitary landfill. Number 3, we should be able to recover, this is again a proposal, recover 3 of the 5 former wetlands. I mean, 5 of the wetlands are now reclaimed, and there are already structures on those wetlands. Per DNR, we can recover them actually, and hopefully we can recover at least 3 of the 5. What else? Number 4, we must have 100% compliance of all structures in the front beach, in the Bulabog beach, of the 25+5 easement rule. 100% compliance. And lastly, I think we have to hit the 70% completion rate in the road widening system. If we hit all those milestones, then we can consider reopening the island. Sabi sa'yo, meron akong pornographic memory. Photographic pala.
We have room for last 3 or 5 questions, but before we go to Seth and Ma'am.
Before that, I'll have to answer the text questions from Manila, ha?
Yeah, okay.
Before the last question.
Okay, sir. From Bernadette Nicolas, is it true, sir, that the President ordered the removal of Cabinet Sec Evasco from the NFA Council last night, or was he removed, or who will be replacing him? Pala, sir.
Well, I did not witness the removal, if there was any. I attended the council meeting, but I think it is a matter of course, because since the NFA is again an attached agency to the DA, there is no need for anyone from the cabinet, from the office of the president, no, to be in the council, no, because the president does not want the burden of having attached agencies to the office of the president, no. Now, this is what will happen, no, and ES and I talked about this extensively this morning. The EO reattaching the agencies to the Department of Agriculture will still have to be issued. The composition now of the board will have to be agreed upon by the council, and whoever will be council will then be agreed upon. So let's wait first for the EO, which again makes the 3 NFA an attached agency under the Department of Agriculture.
Sir, Bernadette is also asking if is it Secretary Piñol will also head.
Well, as I said, no, all I know for now is an EO will be issued attaching again the Department of Agriculture, I mean the NFA to the Department of Agriculture. So I do not know what will happen after the EO. I will first announce if the EO has already been issued.
Thank you, sir, on behalf of Bernadette. And Lynette?
Lynette Mendoza po, RGMA Calibo. Ang mga taga dito sa Aklan, nagtatanong, kami din, pati kami tinatanong, no, kung do you have the implementing rules and regulations during the closure na, at sino yung talagang nagsispearhead, no? Kasi maraming agencies na concerned, maraming agencies na involved. So sino talaga yung point man, at ano yung mangyayari? Kasi yung mga locals dito, kami dito sa Aklan, yung nga nagtatanungan kung...
The President was very clear. It is the DENR that will take charge of rehabilitating Boracay. So it's a DNR that is spearheading the rehabilitation of Boracay.
At saka, may tanong po, is Boracay daw for sale? Kasi dito sa mga nangyayari, syempre lumalabas yung kesyo daw magpuput up ng casino sa Boracay, so kayo sinarado. Pwede nyo po.
Boracay po is not for sale. Gusto nga ibigay ni mga presidente sa mga magsasaka kung meron. Kaya nga, kung merong mga magsasaka dyan, lumabas na kayo, no? Dahil yun ang gusto niya. The point that the president is driving is he wants to return Boracay to the ordinary people, not to the rich resort owners. Okay? He wants the future generations to benefit from the beauty of Boracay, not just the rich.
Kasi may mga nagsasabi po na paano maging agricultural land yung Boracay wala nga matamnan dito.
Kung wala talagang magsasaka dito, ang ini-emphasize ng presidente, yung ordinaryong Pilipino dapat magkaroon ng benepisyo sa Boracay, hindi yung mga mayayaman. Ibalik sa taong bayang Pilipino ang Boracay, ang tanging yaman ng Boracay. Quickly lang, ito yung mga questions ha. So again, I've already read that Sister Patricia Fox has been released. Apparently the recommendation, in a 2-page note with recommendation to the chairman, the investigating BI Legal Division head, Arvin Cesar Santos, noted that while Fox was alleged to have taken part in protest actions by farmers in the past, she was not doing so at the time when BI operatives served her the mission order yesterday. Santos averred that Fox is not covered by inquest proceedings, as the latter will only apply to aliens arrested after being caught in flagrante violating immigration laws. He said that under BI rules, Fox should undergo preliminary investigation to determine if deportation proceedings should be commenced. No? And majority of the questions, I think, have been answered, most of which have to do with NFA and who will head the NFA council. Okay, so no further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Wait,
Sir,
si
from
Joseph and Joyce.
And we have ABS-CBN late afterwards.
Sir, clarification. Sir, you mentioned, Sir, as Allegri mentioned that in connection to the question of whether we can stay in Boracay or not, did you say the hotels will not be allowed to operate?
The closure includes the hotels.
And restaurants? What is that?
No, meaning close to tourists. They will not be open to tourists. Remember, the tourists are the ones, the subject of the closure is for the tourists. They will be open, but they will be open for the locals.
For locals?
Yes.
Sir, on the subject
of yung sa land reform, there's 1086, right? And then there's a 2008 Supreme Court ruling. Will the President issue another proclamation to supersede the 1064?
Well, I think what the President is trying to underscore is much of Boracay is state-owned. And it should therefore be for the benefit of all Filipinos and not just a few. Definitely, he favors the ordinary Filipinos to benefit from Boracay and not just the resort owners.
Would we know, sir, how much of the land here is titled and not
as
titled?
far as I know, you can count with your fingers the number of titles. The Tirol family apparently is the only one with titles. No? Yun lang.
Only the Tirols.
So all the rest are tax declarations.
And tax declarations for 2008 are not enough proof of ownership, right?
They're not. They don't have the same weight as a Torrens title, no? So there is no finality as far as ownership is concerned, as far as tax declarations are concerned.
All right. So when the President said that the land here is state-owned, we are seeing a scenario where those who own quote-unquote land here can lose it, right?
Yes, because they have no title. The decision is clear. It is owned by the state. If the President wants, he could declare everyone to leave. He will not, because he wants everyone to benefit. You know what I'm saying? Again, kayo naman ha, baka i-report nyo na, everyone to leave. No. But the point is, pwede kung gusto niya, because it's state-owned. And of course, we need legislation if further parts of Boracay will be classified as alienable and disposable, no? And no such law has passed Congress since 1986, no? Since before, there's been attempts, no? Many attempts in the past. It has never passed, and I've always wondered why. Maybe it's because even Congress believes that Boracay should be owned by the Filipino people, no?
In practical terms, sir, when you say that Presidente wants the ordinary person to benefit from the land, paano yun? I mean, like, of course, they cannot occupy the hotels and all that.
Number one, we need to protect the environment as is.
Okay.
He wants to restore the wetlands. He wants to restore the forest lands. He wants to preserve the beach. That's why the setback, no? No one should own the beach. No one should appropriate the beach. It should be enjoyed by all Filipinos, no? And that's why he's insisting now on massive and major reforms, particularly on discharge of water. I'm here later on to participate on your stakeholders meeting, no? Because I'm going for a final ultimate solution, no, for preserving Boracay, which is really zero discharge, no?
Sir, just one last point. Wala namang intention ng government to kick out those who have only tax declarations.
Wala naman pong ganon. But the president is backed by legislation, by jurisprudence, and of course Congress as well, because Congress has not moved to declare further parts of Boracay as alienable and disposable. So all branches of government appear to be in agreement that the Filipino people should continue to own Boracay.
Didn't the Supreme Court decision give chance to the resort owners to actually acquire their titles by some whatever legal process?
Kailangan pa ng Act of Congress.
Ganun.
Yes.
Because unclassified land.
Yes.
Boracay is declared as unclassified land. If it's unclassified land, it is inalienable, it is indisposable. Even if you have continuous, exclusive, notorious,
without a classification.
Without a classification, you cannot dispose.
Sir, 1064 classified 60% of Boracay as alienable and
That's it. Kaya nga, the 1064 was upheld by the Supreme Court. So, apply, assuming President Duterte proclaims the land to be inalienable, then Congress comes into the picture to pass a law on the process of having these people who are actually continuously, exclusively, how to get the title. And it will take 30 years, 2006 to 2036.
Thank you. Sir, may dalawa tayo dito.
Although mahuli na kayo sa broadcast nyo, ha?
Good afternoon. Sir Reggie Adosto from ABS-CBN Iloilo. May I refer my question to Accreditation? Sir, if we have laid down all the general guidelines, do we have a guideline for people who would stay in the island? Ano po yung bawal at hindi nila pwedeng gawin while staying in the island?
Wala silang pinabawal. Ang bawal lang sa kanila, yung nilagay namin sa guideline is yung pagligo lang. They are limited to swim in Angol Beach.
Why is that, sir?
Well, ang reason natin is we want to gusto natin yung isla na hindi ginagalaw yung tubig in the meantime. We call that natural way of healing itself. So without any unhampered human activity in the seas, I think it can be a natural healing period for at least not to extend 6 months. Kaya nga pati sa guidelines ilagay natin, di ba? No structure should be seen in the municipal waters, which is around 15 kilometers from the shoreline. So natural healing ito. Ngayon, sa island lang, yung tao, doon lang sa isang area pwede sila maligo. And much to our feedback is, sawa na rin sila maligo eh. But of course, kung gusto sila maligo, doon muna sa area yun. But no limitations, no restrictions on the people in the island, even if they want to go in and out of the island.
Sir, point of clarification for the one entry, one exit policy. Sir, paano yung mangyayari sa mga hotels who would want to magdala ng mga construction materials at lahat?
Ipapatigil na natin lahat ng mga building permits, papatigil na rin natin yung building. What is critical, by the way, is as of the moment, the DNR is already conducting a study on the new current capacity of the island. It will come out anytime soon, most probably by the end of the month or early May. Once it comes out, that becomes the very basis and foundation of the new regulations that we will impose upon the island. If it says if the carrying capacity is only 20 to 25,000, including residents, then we'll have to follow the new carrying capacity. If they say the structure is only limited to what it is right now, or it's over or too much structures, then we will have to ask the others to just not finish any construction that is being done right now. So that will be the most critical document that we must have in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Asik.
Arnel Vicente from Brigada News FM Kalibo. Sir, ang una ko pong katanungan, i-address ko po sa inyo. You are saying to recover the wetlands. How about the forest land?
Sa aming program of action, we have the DNR has identified 948 structures in the forest land wetlands. No, most probably illegal. Most of them are illegal. The target is by the end of November, we must have already dismantled half of it. We'll not be able to finish in the 6-month period all 948 structures, but at least the target is half of it must have been dismantled by the end of November. Tapos sa 6-month period, kailangan yung buong 5 wetlands, no, na natayuan ng struktura will have already been recovered also.
Sir, ang pala po, matutuloy ba ang casino dito sa Boracay, sir?
Ay, definitely hindi na. Nabanggit yata ni Asik Ricky, if I may quote you, no, she mentioned yesterday during the Cabinet Assistance Cluster meeting, na nagsabi na yata si Chairman Andre Domingo.
We were asked last Saturday that Galaxy has said that they are now looking for another venue. And that's very much welcome. Secretary Teo answered that the interagency task force is happy that they're looking. And when they find, then they just have to go through the process of accreditation and securing, again, a new PAGCOR temporary or a provisional authority. And the whole process will have to repeat. But that's a welcome news that they're looking for another venue.
Ma'am, you'll have the last question after Lala. You'll have the last.
Hello po, I'm Laline Moreno from UNTV. Dalawa pong tanong ko. Una po kay Secretary Roque. Pinasa na po sa Kamara itong BBL sa executive session. May timeline po ba na ibinigay ang Pangulo para maisabatas itong BBL?
Hindi po Pangulo ang nagbigay ng timeline. Yung mga liderato po ng Senado at ng Kongreso bago po mag-Sine Die adjournment ng May 30, ang pangako po nila maipapasa ang BBL.
Kay Secretary Densing naman po, you said siguro a few weeks ago, na to follow ang details ng general guidelines. May update po ba sa details?
Pag lumabas na ready na yung guidelines no, for issuance, for signature, pero kailangan lumabas muna yung proclamation of state of calamity and the EO on the closure. Pag lumabas po yan, sunod-sunod na yung details. But it's already ready, kaya nga, nagbibigay na kami sa inyo kung ano yung laman nun para alam nyo na pwede na kayo maghanda hanggat hindi pa siya official.
Sir, last na to siguro, sir.
Sir, you mentioned 5 wetlands. Have you identified where these are, sir, and what establishments will be affected?
Ngayon, sinasurvey na DNR specifically kung ano ang mga structures. Identify na yung wetlands pero hindi pa nila identify sa amin ang specific structures na nakatayo sa wetlands na yun. Maybe the best agency you can mention that is DNR, which is unfortunately wala rito.
Where are these wetlands located?
Well, ang isa lang klaro is nabanggit sa amin is yung 7 Seas, yung Dimol. Yung Dimol, talagang binanggit ng mga taga rito, sir. Dati pa kami dyan, naglalaro kami sa tubigan ng bata pa. So talagang wetland yan before. Ano pa ba yun? Crown Regency was also formed.
Which ones sa Crown Regency? I think they have several
yung
buildings.
sa may harap.
Yung harap.
Dati daw yung wetlands.
Sir, so safe to say the entire stretch of the D-Mall will be demolished?
Basta kung ano nakatayo sa wetland, kasi hindi naman lahat ng D-Mall nasa wetland mismo. A portion of D-Mall is in the wetland. Yung portion na yon, definitely they will have to be recovered by government.
Last na yan, ha?
Di ba last na yan?
Last set of questions. You mentioned the EO and state of proclamation. The EO and the state of proclamation. Ano yan?
Sabay-sabay ba yan, sir? Or may mauna? So separate pala may
Separate yan, pero mauuna yung proclamation of state of calamity. Then siguro after 1 second, yung EO foreclosure. 1 second difference.
Nahuli nga sir yung isa, okay.
Asik Dancing. Sir, yung para sa mga forest lands naman, kasi there are a lot of structures and resorts already there. Shangri-La, Boracay is a forest land. Alta Vista is in a forest land. Will they be demolished, or will DNR give them a chance to whatever have a legal agreement or something?
Okay, we have a standing order from the president, and this was presented during the April 5 or April 6 cabinet meeting. Because as I've mentioned, we've discovered that those who are shouting that they're compliant ended up to be non-compliant. And one classic example is Crown Regency Prince. No, they said we're compliant, then they were closed a few weeks back because they didn't have any sanitary permit and a functioning STP. So the directive right now, and we're already, that's the one reason why we're here, we're already forming teams composed of members from the DNR, DALG, and local government units, including Bureau of Fire Protection, so that we can one by one inspect each establishment one by one, no exceptions, whether they have the necessary environmental clearance certificates, whether they have the complete permits issued by the local governments, whether they have a fire safety inspection certificate, and an actual inspection of their facilities, specifically the wastewater treatment. No? Just to make mention, in our meeting here with the Bureau of Fire Protection officers, in the initial findings, before you can get a mayor's permit, or you cannot be issued a mayor's permit unless you have an issued fire safety inspection certificate. Based on the survey made by the Bureau of Fire Protection 2 weeks back, only 6 out of the 110 establishments that they've surveyed, no, or inspected, only 6 have fire safety inspection certificates, and the remaining 105 or 104 does not have any FSIC. So how come they got permits not to operate?
So that.
Okay,
so but thank you for your cooperation.
Thank
Final
you.
Message from
Yes, well, as I said earlier po, no, narito po ang palasyo ngayon sa Boracay. Ang presidente po ay nag-utos na isarado panandalian ng Boracay at i-rehabilitate ang Boracay, no, para masiguro po na yung ganda ng Boracay makita rin ng mga susunod pang henerasyon at hindi lang ng ating henerasyon. Totoo po, masakit po itong proseso ito sa ilan, pero ginagawa po ng lahat ng gobyerno para maibsan naman yan mga consequences ng panandaliang pagsarili ng Boracay. Pero ang assurance po natin, gagawin natin ang lahat para mapangalagaan ng Boracay at babalik rin po ang Boracay. Punta po kayo ng Boracay sa pagbukas muli ng Boracay. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Secretary Roque. And of course, thank you, ASEC Ricky Alegre of DOT, and of course to Yusek Katkat, no? The Castro of DOT, and Assistant Secretary Epi Densing III. Thank you, everyone. Thank you sa mga ating mga friends sa media, and of course to the people who organized this press conference. Thank you. Let's proceed.